Now, Tom Snackenberg's an interesting character, very smart, and as I said before, I linked up with him because I was working with the America's Cup, and he was one of the ones who suggested I try and be worthwhile in the Olympics. I joined him again back in the pre-Olympic regatta for the next Olympics in Atlanta, but I only did the pre-Olympics. They changed the regulations after that, and they didn't have enough money for meteorological coaches, so they didn't get any sailing medals either. But anyway, at the pre-Olympics, we had good fun, and I spent half of the day just in a boat with Tom, mulling around trying to measure what the currents were doing in this place called Savannah off the coast of Atlanta, Georgia. And, we would tend to talk about anything but meteorology because he was actually, he did a study in Auckland University, but in nuclear physics. I don't know if you realise that. He was very instrumental in sail planning, and he set up the wind tunnel at Auckland University, and he's very involved in North Sails and so forth. But no, his original career was nuclear physics. So the thing that we got talking about was quantum physics and its application to meteorology. So you understand that the weather is definitely a mixture of pattern and chaos. You might have heard that before. And what causes it to jiggle from one pattern to another is the chaotic hub-dub of life which occurs on planet Earth. So we've got a weather pattern in place now, but as soon as somebody opens and closes a door somewhere, creates a change in the pattern. Not much, just a little noise, and it might die away in a few minutes, or it might be picked up by the atmosphere and, like feedback, might grow on itself and create a jiggle in the pattern. Two cars passing along the road create a little spin of wind, and that can sometimes grow into, a few days later, a shower or something. And so there's this dichotomy of chaos. The kaleidoscopic nature of this chaos is creating and jiggling the pattern of the weather. And when I was talking to Tom Snackenberg about that, it reminded him of quantum theory. So it's nice to see that my understanding of weather is very similar to Tom's understanding of quantum theory, because it does help to act as a disclaimer for when things do not turn up. And we all want a disclaimer. I'll talk about a few other people involved in who I've met in my career. Michael Fay. Now, when I originally started to think about, instead of being a bench forecaster and doing shift work at Wellington and writing out forecasts, mostly marine, a position came up to be a seconded meteorologist over in Perth for the Plastic Fantastic in 1988. Michael Fay was doing an attack on the America's Cup. And so they interviewed me and a few others and asked me, what do you know about sailing? I said, well, not much, but I do know about the weather. And I'm versatile. I'm sure I'll be able to. I gave them targets. I said, I'll tell you what, the end of the first month, I'll be able to forecast within 10 degrees and 2 knots every hour. Not quite impressed with this target, so they took me on. And away I went to Perth, and there it was quite interesting. We had Mike Fay, who was definitely the money and the power behind the New Zealand camp, and very much the motivation. And occasionally he'd give us pep talks. He'd call everybody into the sail off, sit down, we're going to have a pep talk. I said, that's a quarter of an hour, isn't it? Sure enough, it was just like if you're sort of half-time and losing in a All Blacks final. That kind of a talk. It didn't have that much inspiration or motivation on me. I was more inspired by the person who they'd employed to try and get the Kiwis up to scratch, pull their socks up. He was an American Cup meteorologist. No, not a meteorologist. America's Cup operator, operations manager on the sail dock and also on the yacht itself, going back from France. They picked him up from France. His name was Laurent Esquier. And his nickname was Leroy, which is sort of schoolboy maths for the king. And he was very much ex-Foreign Legion. Thou shalt turn up at 9 a.m. We're leaving the dock at 9 a.m. And so Chris Dixon turns up at 9:05, and the boat's gone. He has to arrange a shuttle to get him out to the boat, even though he's the skipper of the boat for the race. This was Leroy. So we're doing beautiful. I got my accuracy of 10 knots, within 10 knots, and I should say within 10 degrees and within 2 knots every hour during the racing. I got that accuracy within a month, which is much better than the sort of accuracy that would normally be expected. And we were winning during the round robins. It's only when we came to the semi-finals and the finals that things kind of turned around against us. I remember we're just coming into the semi-finals, and Leroy said to me, "Bob McDavitt, you get your hair cut." And I sort of protested, and I said, "Oh, we can wait till after the racing for the haircut, can't we?" "No, you get your hair cut now. In fact, you've got to be done tomorrow. And you can no more forecasts from you until you get your hair cut." It was that kind of a Frenchman. Gosh. And so I got my hair cut, and we started losing, you see. I don't know. Michael Fay, he wasn't so much an inspirational meteorologist or inspirational manager on me, but in the San Diego campaign, that's when Peter Blake, in those days Peter Blake, that's when he joined the campaign. And he was very much the best manager I've ever had as a motivation. What he would do is he would just sort of look at me and say, "Bob, today I want a winning forecast." Okay. So I'd sort of sharpen my pencils and study the numbers a little bit closer and closer and say, "There you go, there's my forecast." And the next day, same thing. "McDavitt, I want a winning forecast." Okay, so I'd sort of spend even twice the amount of time trying to study the numbers and see if I could tweak them a little bit, give them to him, you know. The idea of a forecast is, I thought, was just to make it as accurate as possible. No, he wanted a winning forecast. What is this winning forecast? So I asked him one day, and I said, "Peter, what is a winning forecast?" "Oh, it's simple. It's one that helps us to win and helps them to lose." Okay, that's his definition of a winning forecast. By the end of that campaign, I was able to give them one of those because we were watching a buoy, which we and a number of other syndicates had gone in together cooperatively to get some data from out on the ocean. And this buoy, it had a few trials. It was hit by one of those subs, those nuclear-powered subs that no one ever saw, that went through into Point Loma in the middle of the night. And it went right through and it cut the chain which was connecting the buoy to the ground. The buoy went travelling down to Mexico. Had a transponder on it, so we chased it back and recovered it and had a look at the breakage because we were wondering if it was sabotage or not. But we had a look at it. No, that wasn't sabotage. That was the bloody US Navy, one of their submarines. And over the campaign, the data coming from this buoy started to drift. The direction that it was reporting that the wind was coming from started to drift, only a little bit, 5 degrees a month. And by the time we were getting to the third round robin, it was about 10 degrees out. We could tell because it was not agreeing with any of the data coming off our instruments when we went past it. It was 10 degrees out. So I monitored it, didn't tell the other syndicates because I didn't want to help them to win. And I corrected for it in all of my forecasts to the afterguard. I thought that was the winning formula. Help us to win, help them to lose. But